Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Viewers, today is a continuation of our discussion that we had yesterday regarding the future of political parties, especially PMLN, People's Party, PTI. We saw that Asif Ali Zardari, the co-chairman of People's Party, was arrested again yesterday, although he was in custody, but another case has been started. The second aspect was Rana Sanaullah was also apprehended yesterday. He has been sent on 14 days of judicial remand. Then Prime Minister of Pakistan also spoke to media yesterday, talking about accountability and how there's not going to be any NRO in the country. And then he also mentioned that yes, there is a possibility of a plea bargaining if somebody returns the money and there is some kind of agreement. But in the end, there won't be any national reconciliation ordinance 2.0. So these things are quite interesting. Yesterday, if you remember, we were talking about the future of political parties, particularly People's Party and PMLN, because their leadership seems to be in a mode where they are being diminished. On one side, we saw Mian Nawaz Sharif, the former head of PMLN, after whom the party is named, that he has been interned. Now he is behind bars. And his party doesn't seem to be able to, work out a settlement between the two families within the party. The second party, People's Party, is also under tremendous stress, and PTI, the ruling party, also is, trying to tackle the situation on the national scene. So we were trying to actually divine what is going to happen in coming days. Today we are going to do exactly the same thing. In order to help us understand these issues, we have a very eminent panel. We have with us Javed Siddique Saab, a senior journalist, a columnist, an editor, a talk show host, and whatnot. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Zaham Khan Saab, senior analyst. Also, he belongs to the civil society, and then he also creates content for internet as well. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Next to him is Javed Rana, one of the investigative journalists who have been appearing regularly in this show. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Javed Siddique Saab, I have to start with you, and I want you to help me understand what is going to become of the leading opposition parties in the country, People's Party and PMLN.
Well, I think it is unprecedented in Pakistan's history. The old...
It is?
It is. The old political model, which we witnessed in Pakistan for almost 4 decades, one party ruling the country, and then the opposition trying to dislodge it through political methods or through street power or through democratic process, and sometime in league with establishment of Pakistan, they would overthrow their political rivals. So that was the pattern for a long period of time. And the process of accountability, I mean the accountability itself was never instituted, or this process was alien to our political culture. Specifically after 1985, when General Ziaul held the non-party based elections, the political analysts and the Pakistan watchers agree to this, that this corruption in politics began after these 1985 elections. And these two political parties, Pakistan Muslim League and People's Party, they had 2 terms in 90s, and subsequently they had terms, one more term, PPP from 8 to 8 to the
That's
13.
True, sir. But we are talking about past right now.
Right.
But what about the future?
No. But when the top leadership of these political parties is now being held accountable for the misdeeds that they have done or committed in the past, the massive wealth they have acquired through unfair means and all that, now a process of accountability has started. And this time around, we think that, and I personally feel that the PTI in support of the establishment, they have started this process in an effective manner, and the top leadership of both parties in a big fix.
Okay.
And you know,
And I'm going to come back to that. Let me bring in Zahram Khan Saab. When I was introducing you, sir, I forgot one of the favorite introductions. You are one of my favorite columnists. Now, Zahram Khan Saab, there is a term that has been used often in the West. It has sort of become a pejorative, that unique party, that both major parties, perhaps in opposition, seem to be looking the same now. Do you think that they both have People's Party and PMLN have any future now? Especially because PMLN doesn't seem to be able to reconcile the differences between Maryam Nawaz's politics and Shehbaz Sharif's politics. And that seems that there is a kind of schizophrenia in the party. And when it comes to People's Party, it also seems to be losing the kind of steam it once used to have. What is your take, sir?
Well, first about the parties, the two parties, perhaps you're referring to the two main parties in opposition, PMLN and People's Party looking the same. I think all the three major political parties, if you include PTI as well, they look the same to me, because we are out of the age of ideology, and they try to appeal to the same kind of electorate. And in a way, they are invested, or they find support from same kind of businesses or crony capitalists.
Okay.
Supported by the same kind of crony capitalists. So in terms of ideology, orientation towards economy, kind of classes they are supported by, they look very much the same. But the difference is the kind of appeal they have. Now, for example, Pakistan Muslim League represents the central Punjab, the developed part of Punjab, more than any other party.
Sir.
Look at the People's Party. It represents Sindh, particularly the Sindh other than Karachi, more than any other political party. Similarly, if you look at PTI, PTI represents KP, Southern Punjab, and to some extent Karachi, more than any other political party. So Pakistan is a very diverse society, and it is not possible for one political party
to represent
the entire
But there used to be a time when we used to talk about Charo Subo ki Zanjeer, Benazir, right?
Well, that kind of, no, all these parties are still relevant in their way, because at the same time, they have a popular appeal, some kind of popular appeal in all provinces as well. Though not as much as was the case in 1990s.
No, I get it. But the nuance that you mentioned, you highlighted, and that is very interesting, that all the political parties are the same now, more or less, right? In that context, and especially emphasis on crony capitalism and all that, that means that if you are in power, then you are powerful. If you are not, then you'll start losing power. These two parties, especially PMLN, is totally out of power. So do you think that they will be able to survive that kind of crisis? And is there a possibility of 2+ parties in this country?
Well, let's look at the nature of crisis that these parties are going through. It's a very complex kind of crisis. Now, these parties, as I said, they are very important to Pakistan and in terms of representation, but then they have their negative sides too. For example, you see, they are also led by dynasties. There are families that have founded these parties and that have led these parties for decades from the very beginning. Now, those dynasties, dynasties means dynasties are dictated by the family cycle. So look, if you look at these families or the dynasties, they are at a stage at the same time, interestingly, when the patriarchs have got old and they are in the process of handing over their authority to a younger generation. Now, as you know, as a student of history, for any dynasty, it is a time of risk and danger.
Okay,
because
I really like this reference to dynasties and this transfer. But the humble summation, it seems to be Aurangzeb's parties or dynasties who refused to give up power till the time he didn't die. And at this moment, these two seniors seem to be dominating their political narrative.
Yes.
I have to bring
Yes,
in
just,
Javed
just,
Rana.
just add a couple of
Sir, I'll come
sentences.
back to you, sir. Allow me. Javed Rana sir, now what becomes of People's Party and PMLN? I'm going to talk about PTI as well, but I want to actually proceed systematically.
I think it depends on how the ruling party, the country's institutions move in coming days and weeks when it comes to the anti-corruption campaign. Because the manner with which some of the arrests have taken place, I think that is going to benefit opposition parties, politically speaking.
Okay.
Because on one hand, you have launched an anti-corruption campaign.
Okay.
And there are many takers in Pakistan. They believe that the opposition political figures have done a lot of corruption. And this, the kind of the jargon that they coined, like decades, thieves, that is also acceptable by so many people. But when you all of a sudden arrest an opposition figure, maybe of middle ranking, on charges other than corruption, and the manner with which this entire episode was conducted.
You're talking about Rana Sanaullah.
Rana Sanaullah, that will make the anti-corruption campaign doubtful. It would
Why?
be perceived a witch hunt, because
I mean, come on.
I'm
of
coming
all
to that
the
point.
people, you are objecting to
No.
the arrest of Rana Sanaullah.
The reason I'm telling
Of
you,
all the
because
people.
I tell you, because a man who was involved, allegedly involved in killing 14 people in Model Town, there are serious charges of murder against him, and also charges of corruption. He is being
Not to mention that when he was out of power, when he was removed as a result of Model Town, the minister who replaced him was later killed by terrorists.
he is not being
And he
prosecuted on
returned
those
to power.
on those charges, and all of a sudden we come to know that he is a drug supplier. Why would a leader of his stature
No, why-
carry drugs? You see, that has frankly
Was
dented.
that recovered from his car or not?
That is what is being reported.
Okay. So you don't want to believe in anything that is
I-
discernible.
You know, there can be plausible. We can believe that he might have. I mean, quote unquote. I
No,
don't
but
believe that
why
is the
do
case.
we choose to live in the world of conspiracy theories
It's
all
not
the time?
you see this. I think the conspiracy theories is the other way around in this particular case. You know, a politician of his stature would not carry drugs along with him when he knows that he's under radar. So I think
Actually, you have
this.
no, hang on. You have forgotten what happened with Javed Hashmi. One letter that came from an organization to Fawzia Wahab, not to Javed Hashmi. Javed Hashmi gets his leadership's telephone that now you have to distribute that letter. And then he is apprehended. So there might be a strategy within the party as well to actually surrender the leaders, to build this kind of narrative.
And I think I would struggle to believe that he was a drug supplier.
No, you just want
see,
to bring
But
the-
I think
yourself
this is
down.
extremely
Drug
important.
peddler.
I think.
Why can't you believe that? There's money in it.
You see, I mean, he might have connection with the drug peddlers, but why would he carry drugs with him?
Why would he not?
And when he knows that
When he's caught with that.
when he knows that his telephones were allegedly being tapped, when he knows that he's under radar, I think that politically speaking, it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
But again,
let me ask
the point that you
the
want-
senior most journalist on the
last
panel.
point I want to make is that this has damaged government's credibility in terms of anti-corruption campaign.
No, with due respect, that might be your assessment, my assessment. The day people come out on street, I will accept that it has, in public's eye, damaged the government's or the accountability's credibility. At this moment, I don't see that kind of hoopla on the street. So your take on Rana Sanaullah?
Well, I think the current government, the PTI government, has launched an anti-corruption campaign in Pakistan in a very efficacious manner. And I think people were buying it. I mean, this whole process of accountability, because they arrested the top people, PMLN top man, the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, and then Mr. Zardari. So
Nawaz Sharif was before this government.
but I mean, he has been sentenced by the court of law, and now Zardari is under trial. So the people actually, first time in Pakistan's history, believe that a process of accountability, real accountability has started in this country, and the top leadership is now under the scanner, and they are going to face the music. But when incident of this type, I mean Rana Sanaullah, who was not a big shot in politics, not
He is a big shot.
He is, but I don't
Shehbaz
think
Sharif was to become, after Nawaz Sharif was sacked,
He
Shehbaz
was to
Sharif
become
was to
chief
become the
minister.
prime minister.
Yeah.
But when this guy actually vetoed Shehbaz Sharif, that day,
Right.
Shehbaz Sharif decided he's
Again,
going to stay in
yeah,
Punjab.
he has some political influence in Faisalabad, in his home district, but I don't think his stature is that he could create a big tent. But I think by arresting him on this charge, that he is a drug peddler, I think that has created doubts in the minds of people. You know, the PMLN...
You and I are struggling under the, at least Javed Rana Sahab seems to be indicating that he might have been set up by some forces. Is there a possibility that he might have been framed by his own party, his own colleagues?
You know, there
is competition within the party.
There are conspiracy theories, yes, but
In
but
Faisalabad,
but I think yes,
one man
that's a
from his
possibility.
own party comes on record and
That-
says that he's a murderer.
That could be a possibility, but at the same time, you know, when these tactics, because these tactics have been used in the past as well. Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto arrested his own party men on very frivolous charges because they were not agreeing to Bhutto. They were having a dissent of voice with Mr. Bhutto, and subsequently all other leaders. They took action against their own people when they tend to disagree with them on politic matter.
No, sir,
but here,
but here's the nuance. When you're talking about Bhutto Sahab, he had ungodly powers in those days, right? Pakistan's establishment was down, Pakistan had been dismembered, he was all in every aspect.
Subsequently.
When you talk about the current government,
subsequently,
there is a lot of diffusion of power.
of course, but in Nawaz Sharif's time, for instance, he had the powers. Twice Nawaz Sharif became prime minister with 2/3 majority.
Okay.
He had absolute majority, and he was using that majority to become a dictator. Under Article 15, you know, he was trying to introduce
Shariat bill?
Yes, so that was undone.
No.
But I think he was trying to be a dictator. So I believe that yes.
No law will stand in the way of God's order, Prophet's example,
Exactly.
and Amirul Mu'mineen.
Momini.
And
So,
that
you know,
was
that was not
Nawaz
allowed to be done, and there was a huge dissent within the party, PMLN, in those days, 90s. So what I'm saying is that the process of accountability should be carried on. It should carry on the track that it is now. But I think the extraneous factors that, you know, the PTI government, if people start blaming it, that it is victimizing its opponents, when
but here's the
the
problem.
people were caught.
If God forbid, I was to, put or plant a packet of drugs in your car, or you were to do it in my car, somebody was to be were to be tipped off, we would have been apprehended, regardless of who
But
we are.
there are so many.
If, for that matter, a politician is found with that, should he be allowed to go?
No. Anybody who commits lawlessness, he must be taken to task according to the law. But, you know, there are so many conspiracy theories. People think that the driver was subverted and, he was in league with somebody and that the driver was used.
I love it.
You know,
when
the
we
driver
have
was
to create
used.
so many explanations
So I
to
think
understand one simple.
now let the law take its own course, and
absolutely.
it is now in the court of law. So let's see what happens. But I think the PTI should focus and concentrate on the process of accountability. I think they have earned a lot of credibility for this process. And it should not be, I mean, they should do anything which should deviate them from
but
this.
when the Prime Minister says that his government had nothing to do with it, you have to buy it, right?
Yeah, Prime Minister has said it, but this has been done by ANF, you know,
Yeah.
and added by a serving general.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
But it comes under the purview of Defense Ministry.
Exactly.
And that is quite interesting. But let me go to Zagham Khan Sahab. You can comment on that as well. But I need some deeper answers from you as well, sir. You wanted to make a point earlier too when I requested that I'm going to come back to you. But here's another aspect that I want to understand. Why is it that in all the explanations that this country has for a crime or some kind of decision or action, we don't go for Occam's razor, the simplest explanation. We have to go for conspiracy theories all the time.
Well, because so many things remain unclear in this country, and we have devious ways of doing things for such a long time, and it's very unfortunate, you see. For example, I mean, about accountability, I mean, the best way to deal with corruption or even white-collar crime is rule of law. You make your courts effective, your police effective, so that anyone who is committing any kind of crime is apprehended. So we established this parallel system of accountability, and even after like 2 decades, we are still depending on that parallel system to deal with white-collar crimes, and white-collar crimes of selection of the executive.
Yeah, you're talking about NAB being the parallel system.
Of course, NAB is a parallel
And
system.
don't you think that all the political parties are to blame here?
Oh, definitely.
Because for 10 years,
Definitely.
we had the so-called ARD ruling the country.
They were not interested, of course, no doubt about that. Our ruling elite, I mean, of every hue and color, was uninterested in bringing a system of accountability that was above board. And same is true for this government as well. Not interested in a system of accountability that everybody could trust in, and particularly bring reforms to the system of justice. I mean, how much energy has it spent on reforming the justice system?
Yeah,
Zero.
But allow me to go back to the original question that I asked, and I'm asking you because you have a very deep eye, you have deep insight into certain things. I want to understand, there must be a reason. Usually, whenever you are referring to certain facts, whatever you see, whatever you read, whatever is discernible through sense perception is believed in. Okay. But most of the times, what we do, I don't know, media does it also, and all the analysts, researchers, intellectually very mature people, that instead of working with the facts they have in hand, they go back and they start actually referring to rumors. Why is it that we have that kind of an approach in this country?
Well, I mean, because story is more attractive than facts.
Okay.
When you bring a story, you see, that story is something that sells on media.
Okay.
So you are bringing a narrative, a story that can attract crowds.
Why,
if you are just stating facts and analyzing
why
on the
doesn't it
basis,
happen in other countries?
I don't know. Perhaps where media is more professional.
Okay.
And of course, even in developed countries, there's a division between media. There is quality media that depends on facts, and then there are channels and newspapers that are more into similar kind of stories and narratives.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have that
With
kind
the
of
passage of time, this is going to be resolved, do you think?
Well, nothing gets resolved by passage of time alone. if you make a real effort
Okay.
and try to evolve the system, evolve
Thank you
the
very much for
institutions.
that answer, because I needed it. But let me go back to Javed Rana Sahab and ask him the original question regarding the two political parties, because I want to talk about political parties more. What becomes of People's Party in coming days? In the past, you said that you see People's Party weakening, and PMLN also maybe one day will start disappearing. What exactly is your forecast, your understanding? What is the trajectory of these parties?
I think to begin with, let me give you the bigger picture that the international links, international support of these two political parties has substantially weakened.
Who was supporting them?
Obviously, they were good. They were. I mean, the West was backing People's Party. The PMLN was being backed by the West, and
How?
I think we will go into different debate.
No. With due respect, when you,
see,
make a statement, you have to qualify it.
Let me qualify it.
They were
in 2011, we had a Memogate scandal.
Okay.
And,
That was Hussain Haqqani.
Hussain
doing it.
Haqqani,
Yeah.
and its links with the then President Asif Zardari, and Hussain Haqqani later on admitted in an article that he wrote.
Uh-huh.
And
It was People's Party's attempt,
it
which
wa-
failed.
It was, but obviously they were being backed by the US. I mean,
No.
there was a communication. There was a.
If the so-called memo was to be accepted, situation would have been different.
And then we have so-called National Reconciliation Ordinance. It was moderated by the US. It's a known fact. The books have been written
Yeah,
on
but
it.
it was during Pervez Musharraf's time. It was support of Musharraf, not People's
So
Party.
that's what I'm saying. No, it was also for the People's Party. It's a fact. and then in 2013, let me say that Nawaz was brought into power
By the West.
with it's a combination of establishment and the West.
Do you know?
I don't go.
Can you
as
identify?
as a reporter?
Hang on.
as
Can
a
you
report-
identify? You're a journalist. Can you identify the source of so-called Panama Papers? It was also West, which brought down.
Let's not mix up two things.
Okay,
What
now-
I'm saying is, you see, for the first time, I would say that the PTI government was brought in against the wishes of the West. Now, if I would qualify it, that I don't want to get into much detail.
See, Zaham
So
Sahib,
the point
you
I'm
really
trying to
helped
make,
me here.
the point I'm trying to make is quite simple. That these two major political parties do not have that kind of support from the foreign countries they used to have. Nawaz was taken outside Pakistan, despite the fact that he was facing corruption charges in 2000. Saudis had taken him. No more they are
So
interested.
these are not the West.
Via West. You know, it was the then U.S. President
Okay,
Donald
so
Trump.
the future direction is that they
this
are
is
going
a-
to be weakened.
This is the part of it. Now, foreseeably, the U.S. is going to withdraw from Afghanistan. Foreseeably, Taliban are going to return to Afghanistan, maybe with a coalition government. So the dynamics of the politics have changed. And I think Pakistan is gradually heading towards a different system. I'm not talking of a military dictatorship. The system which will be reflecting more soft authoritarianism. The reason I'm saying this, now we are seeing more influence of Russia and China on the international stage.
Okay.
So that means that Pakistan is more inclined to expand its relation with China. We have already.
So we are
had
going
with
to actually
Russia
emulate
and
their
China.
models.
The
Is it what you are
influence,
saying?
the influence of the USA on Pakistan and the other Western country is gradually decreasing. That means there is less freedom of expression in Pakistan.
Why would you, a believer in democracy, refer to all the external explanations to justify a change of system in Pakistan rather than look at the
The
people of
point is,
Pakistan?
in years to come, these political parties would have least support from their traditional backers, and there will be indigenous elements, political elements, the political parties, and your establishment would be looking up to the Russia and China.
So India
and they don't have any concern.
India
of-
is also doing that.
Eh?
India is also doing that. India is moving very close to America, and yet they have one-party system now.
We can't
Why-
say it.
why
It would
do
be,
we have to
India
actually-
has a different story. We have
Okay,
there's a different story.
right, sir.
Yeah, I believe that these two political parties that we have seen the last 3 to 4 decades, PPP and PMLN,
So,
I think they will be undergoing a lot of transformation. That they never tried to become a modern democratic political party.
right.
I think it has already been pointed out that it is a dynastic system. It's a family system. One family rule.
And now dynasty is broken in PMLN.
And
There's a competition between Shehbaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz.
Maryam Nawaz.
Who is
and
going to be the leader of party now?
I don't know. We have yet to see. But
Okay, the difference between
but
Bilawal
Maryam-
Bhutto Zardari and
Maryam-
Asif Ali Zardari's sister is also a competition.
Maryam basically has a greater influence in the party because Nawaz Sharif is still having influence in the party ranks.
Okay.
And his name is sells. So therefore, Maryam has an upper hand, an edge over Hamza Shehbaz or Shehbaz Sharif. So, but definitely, transformation is taking place, both in PPP and PMLN, because times are changing and people are becoming more politically more conscious. And they think that they are now, they have started believing that these two parties and the top leadership is corrupt and thoroughly corrupt. And they have indulged in massive corruption, misuse of power. And
Which one? PMLN as well?
both. And so therefore people had already this perception in the past, but now that it is being tested in courts of law, and it is becoming clear, and I think it is becoming more evident that yes, they were indulging in corruption, making money and misusing their power to build their own fortunes. So therefore these two parties are going to change. And we have seen in India
Change as in weaken?
They will weaken, and I think the democratization process within the parties will begin at some stage. There will be voices within parties that yes, this leadership must be changed, and we need to introduce a process of accountability within the parties, and we need to have neat and clean leadership so that we are not there's no vulnerability within the party on the basis of this.
Right.
And I also want to say that in India recently, what has happened to Congress is a clear indication that even in India, the dynastic rule and the family rule is being diminished. It is on its way out.
Okay, and that is a good answer, sir. But with due respect, let us zero in or focus on PMLN right now. There are two explanations. One, that people consider them corrupt, and that's why they are being diminished. The second possibility is that there is a kind of schizophrenia in the party. There are two very powerful leaders. They keep cancelling each other out. For example, Mariam Nawaz and Shehbaz Sharif. Shehbaz Sharif was not very supportive during the Dharna time and others. Later on, during the election, when Shehbaz Sharif became the heir apparent and he was the leader and who could become prime minister, then the other faction undermined him in the elections.
Look, I mean, as far as corruption is concerned, corruption of main political parties is concerned, let's be clear on it. These political parties or their leaders did not make money by peddling drugs or by selling jobs or by taking cuts. They made money by mixing business with governance.
Okay.
Selling jobs was also one of the charges.
That is, I mean, of course, all kind of charges have been thrown on them. But if you could make billions of rupees, you see, through crony capitalism, why would you soil your hands with 50,000 rupees or 100,000 rupees? They did not do it. And this is a crime in which our whole ruling elite has been involved. And this process has destroyed our economy because we have not been able to build exports, because crony sector cannot produce, cannot be competitive, cannot produce the kind of surplus that you need to export. Now, that has become the major weakness of these two political parties, because these families who lead these parties double as business houses as well. And if you are a business, you are vulnerable. As a business family,
So
this is
the explanation would be that they are cancelling each other out.
look, I mean, I'm looking at their vulnerabilities. This is vulnerability. The other vulnerability, as I said, earlier said, it is the dynastic transfer, time of transfer and transformation. But having said that, I mean, I believe that PTI is trying to establish one-party hegemony.
Okay.
It is the fifth time in our history that a ruling party, a political party, is trying to be hegemonic and set up a one-party hegemony. But I believe, like all earlier experiments, this experiment is going to fail, and this will cost PTI dearly. As Rana Saab said, I mean, earlier mentioned, this is going to be another expensive experiment. We see, of course, it's a democratic party.
No, I get it. When you're talking about forward block, a possibility of a forward block in a party, then I get PTI might actually venture into the picture. But I'm talking about a very clear divide. If you have us sitting with the people who are close to Mariam Nawaz, they clearly blame their uncle, her uncle, right? If you listen to the people who are close to Shehbaz Sharif, they clearly mention Mariam as the root cause of all the problems. So
But-
the party seems to be catching fire at the very top. Same goes for People's Party. Everybody kept on telling Asif Ali Zardari Sahab that you have to move away and empower your son. He empowers his son only when the son is totally out to help his father.
Of course, those kind of internal dynamics and internal problems are there, and we can discuss them. But they are political parties, and in political parties, these kind of struggles are there, particularly at the time of transformation. But if you look at the PMLN, they have an agreement about the government. There's no disagreement about what Imran Khan is doing or what PTI is doing. And same is true for People's Party as well.
An agreement between Mariam Nawaz and Shehbaz Sharif.
Well, there is an understanding that the government is being very tough and very unfair on them. And
No, Shehbaz Sharif says that the government should stay and finish its time, and Mariam Nawaz would like to go on streets and start agitating tomorrow.
well, but Shehbaz Sharif, I mean, when it comes to the last and final decision, it will be Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif is the leader, and
So-
Shehbaz Sharif and Mariam do not disagree on the analysis of the situation. They
Charter of
disagree.
Economy.
They disagree.
One actually comes up with the idea of Charter of Economy, the other one actually goes and takes a bazooka and totally destroys it.
Well, there's a kind of good cop and bad cop in there, and they have kept their options
Either
open.
that or there's a schizophrenia in the party.
Well, I mean, we don't
Two
know.
personalities
But
in the
look, I
party.
mean, we know one thing, that if this government goes towards authoritarianism,
Why would it?
I mean, it is showing those kind of colors.
No, it is
If
not.
we are going to have political instability, and if we have political instability, we cannot come out of the current economic crisis we have.
Story of my life, 72 years. Nothing has changed then. But Rana Sahab, your take at this moment on the overall direction of the country. You believe that we are going to be an authoritarian country and we are going to have a soft authoritarianism. Is it what you are saying?
I think, the traditional system that we had, is a changing now in a manner that we don't see that much. The politics, there are some reflection of early 90s, mid 90s politics. There are also new reflections where our political party is cracking down the opposition figures in a manner that we had not witnessed in the past. So
Asif Ali Zardari stayed behind the bars for 11 years.
I'm telling, but frankly speaking, I don't have a positive opinion about Asif Zardari and so many
No,
other
but he
PML
was
leaders.
incarcerated and you couldn't prove
But
it,
the
right?
point is,
At that
the
time.
way he survived all these legal cases, it was allegedly through fraud.
Okay.
I mean, by
Injured
all
tongue.
of sudden, the original documents of the prosecution case
Injured
got
tongue,
disappeared.
mental instability, some terminal disease and all that kind of excuses.
No, those kind of excuses are not there. The kind of this, I mean, he's not getting those kind of concession. And early on, in the past, the opposition parties used to get some backing from the establishment. No, that's not there. Okay. So I think now PMLN and the People's Party leaders, they are coming to the belief that in one way or the other, they are going to face the prosecution and this accountability. This is a positive. But when it comes to the government leaders and the ministers, the manner with which the prosecution has been conducted against them, that creates an impression that perhaps NAB is trying to create an impression that they are evenly playing. Okay. They are not conducting selected accountability. They are trying to create an impression. But as a matter of fact, that seems to be not there. Okay. That is a general perception. I think what this government needs to do, they needs to focus on purely on accountability. Let's hope it is not a selective accountability.
Okay.
But if they try to nab leaders, opposition figures on weak corruption charges or charges other than corruption, it would damage the very cause it is fighting for.
Model Town is a corruption charge or is it not?
It's a far more serious case.
Is it?
Yes, it's a
So if somebody is apprehended in that case, will it be accountability or not?
I think it is more than accountability. But why Rana Sanaullah has not been apprehended in that case. This is,
Yeah.
and he has
I'm-
been
I'm-
apprehended in a case which is controversial. So I think there seems to be an element of little desperation handling opposition because they have announced a protest.
I mean, come on.
I
Will that be
I
successful?
don't think they are in a position to bring out people on the
The
roads.
only thing they can do right now, and I think that is going to be compromised also, is replacing the chairman of Senate. That is,
That's all they can do.
All they can do right now, but they might not be able to do it if there is a forward block. And we hear, Khaira Saab talking about a forward block or some kind of patriots being built right now. That is quite interesting.
See-
You can add to this, but
Yeah.
I have a deeper question, and it will have to be actually tackled in a very limited time. The question is about the nature of our voter. On one side, in this country, it seems that political talk shows actually are rated even above entertainment. On the other side, I don't see that kind of activism on the part of the common citizen. I mean, where are those new parties that could have emerged in this vacuum when two major parties are being dismantled or are actually taking...
They are disintegrating. In fact, the PMLN has a different background and a different story. The Pakistan Muslim League, from the very beginning of this country, has been used as a platform by dictators. Ayub Khan Convention League. When Ziaullah came, he also used Muslim League Junajo group. And subsequently, Musharraf, when he came, he used Pakistan Muslim League Q. But some of the other PMLN survived. I mean, Nawaz Sharif was able to create a party, and he was able to...
I get it.
Exactly.
Establishment keeps on reorganizing
So
it.
now the establishment is not supporting Pakistan Muslim League N.
Okay.
And they have understood it. They have been trying their level best ever since they have found themselves in the crisis, since the beginning of these offshore companies and that scandal and the Supreme
I
Court.
get that, sir.
So
my concern is 200...
they have now understood.
200 million plus people in a country.
Right.
They
But
must have their own parties. Where are those parties?
No, but you see, for them, I think the People's Party had that kind of appeal from the people within
In
the people.
1970s?
No.
Millennials were
Even
not
in
even
90s,
born then.
even in 90s under Benazir, they had the ability to build a mass party, but they were unable to do it because after Benazir's murder, it is now in the hands of Mr. Zardari, whose name is soiled with corruption. And that
At
is
least
a
it is a
tragedy.
bad name in Punjab. I
So
don't know the rest of the country.
Therefore, I think
there's a stigma attached to it. Right?
exactly. So the PMLN, because the establishment is not supporting it, it is on its way to disintegration.
Right,
And
sir.
the PPP.
I'm told that I had a same question for you, but I'm told that we have
PPP is now under the evil influence of Mr. Zardari, and it is on the way to decline.
Right, I understand that. The humble submission is that we are looking at top-down model. We are not looking at bottom-top approach. We haven't seen that kind of evolution.
The
of
PTI
political
has
parties.
emerged from there.
After 22 years, and of course there are many
And
talking
we
points
could
about
see
that as well.
could see some more parties emerging in future.
Let us hope that we do, and they are positive parties, not like TLP. At this moment, I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Javed Sadiq Saab, thank you very much for your time. Zahra Mahan Saab, thank you very much for your time as well. Javed Rana Saab, thank you very much. Although we usually disagree, today again, we disagree on the atmospherics that you were building. Viewers, you have listened to the participants. In Pakistan at this moment, we have a democratic culture. Whether you want to listen to people who keep on agitating that everything is being compromised, that is your choice. In democracies, you get that right also. But right now, when you look at the institutions, the three pillars of state, they seem to be functioning the way they are supposed to. Parliament could actually up its game, but when you look at judiciary, when you look at the political parties, when you look at the executive, they are functioning. So, and media is also there. We keep on talking about all those contentious issues, even in this program. This is the state channel, and yet we can talk about everything under the sun. The problem then might be, of course, there are complicating factors in Pakistan's society as well, but a lot of this lack of democracy might have to do with the conspiracy theories that we have in the society. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.